In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Thanks for spending some time with me today. We're going to dig into some concepts around generative engine optimization, or what some people are calling answer engine optimization, and how we may keep our eyes focused on the fundamentals of SEO that is supporting the GEO, and then what kind of is on the horizon for GEO. And also, we're going to take a look at a cool tool again called NOATOA that can look and see if you're being presented correctly on the answer engines. And today we have Michael Buckbee joining again for the second time. And Michael has nearly 2 decades at the intersection of marketing and technology. He has worked with a diverse range of clients, from the U.S. Navy to Fortune 100 companies and even rock bands. We're going to need to know more about that. He is the co-founder of NOATOA, a cutting-edge service that provides insights into brand visibility and sentiment within AI search engines such as Chat and Google Gemini. Michael's extensive experience positions him as a thought leader in leveraging AI for brand strategy and visibility. Michael, thanks for taking some time to talk about AI with me.
Well, thank you. I'm impressed you read the entire bio. You know, it says like provide a short bio. And I'm like, well, I'll put this in. You can pick and choose what sounds good. But
yeah. Well, what rock bands did you work with? That's what I want to know.
A couple. So for this is a long time ago now, but at one point I had developed the calendar and like booking system for South by Southwest, that big
nice
arts and music festival. So the official app from them. And so with that, got to be behind the scenes for a lot of stuff and see a lot of cool bands there. And then I've also done, you know, over the decades of like all these different startups, but Weezer was another band that used something I had that was like trying to like give rewards for like visiting the site and like interactions and doing stuff, kind of like a loyalty program thing, like
love it,
for encouraging fans and stuff. So yeah, Metallica, Weezer, a couple other, you know, in there. So
awesome. I love it. Well, that's cool, especially to work with South by Southwest. I bet that was you got to meet a lot of cool people in that.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like it is, you know, even we're here talking about AI stuff. I still find so much value in talking to people one-on-one and just, you know, figuring out where they're at and what problems they're having and things. There's no substitute for that. So
I would agree. And I think that's one of the opportunities that AI is really creating, is a spot where your network and the way that you're able to have conversations and develop and continue to maintain emotional intelligence is really a brand differentiator.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I'm wondering what's going on in NOATOA and where you guys are at and what you got coming up in the next quarter.
Sure. Well, we just this morning launched a new version of our research tool. Because this, I think, is one of the big challenges is, you know, there's traditional SEO, and now like you kick this off by saying GEO or everything else. And we take the standpoint that things are moving so fast. It's like wrapped all the way back around to just SEO, that it's just the default. It's not actually a separate thing. And so up until literally this morning, we actually had in the application like 2 separate columns when you did research. Like, and this is a thing SEOs have done for decades, which is keyword research, which is like, what are the people looking for solutions to the problems they have? What keywords are they putting in? And then we take those and make them questions. And then we look up like, oh, how does that question do on ChatGPT? With respect to, does it recommend your company? Does it recommend your service? You know, that type of thing. And we had always broken that out as like, well, there's traditional search volumes, which is like how many people a month look for or enter in a variation of this question. And then
Yep.
there's AI search volumes that we would estimate, in some different ways. And now we just sort of got rid of that. And now it's just search volume again, because it's all of these all the time, especially with Google and how they're pushing AI so hard. So,
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you do a Google search and you immediately get hammered with the Gemini response, and sometimes it's valuable and sometimes it's garbage. Um,
well, I think an interesting thought experiment is it garbage because it's from Gemini, or is it garbage because all of the responses to that question were garbage and Gemini just happened to summarize them?
yeah, right. Yeah,
You
yeah.
a real
Yeah. I guess I'm not talking from the technical standpoint, more just from the user standpoint. Like sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not helpful.
Well,
Right?
I was going to say, there's the pizza glue example. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I don't know that one.
So like, it was like, hey, my cheese is, how do I keep cheese from sliding off my pizza when I make it? And one of the answers was, an AI overview answer, which is sourced. Google uses a model. And it came up with like, oh, you should use glue for that, because someone had made a sarcastic comment on Reddit. And there's
Right.
really not that many people writing about like how to get the cheese to stick on things. And so it put it in there. And, that's not if you read it in the context of this like whole long Reddit thing, you're like, obviously this is a joke. But if you read it in a, AI overview, it sounds very authoritative. And you're like, oh, let me
Right.
get the Elmer's out for my pepperoni. So,
Yeah, which it brings back the part about the human in the loop, right? And how we have to
mhm.
maintain.
Well, and there is so much like context stripping that happens across all of this stuff where it's, devoid of a lot of those things. It's so hard to figure out what to trust, and like, is it verifiable, and like everything else. And it's a challenge, I think, for businesses now. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so if we're going back to the idea of SEO, does that mean that we
Mhm.
got to get back into getting more directories linking to us and interlinking with content websites that match similar markets and those sorts of things, or where are we fitting in the technical side of all this right now?
I think from a technical standpoint, and you really, I think maybe almost less a technical standpoint and more like, what's our content strategy? Like, what's the content strategy we should be having? Um, I think the content strategy is very much around, persuasion and education. It's not so much about getting, people to view you, or, to fill in sort of all of the buyer's journey. It's much more about like at the key spots where you need to influence people when they're asking like, what's the best in this category, what is happening in this spot, that you're able to, show up in the right results, have the right information about your company show up, and then, hopefully persuade people with that into, a sale, or at least getting a demo or anything else like in your buyer's journey. So.
And then where are you fitting in on this? I think I've heard that there's like an LLM.txt file now that we're supposed to be embedding. Where do you
Yeah.
fit on that?
Um, I think the LLMs.txt is a very hopeful thing, which is that it was something that came up from marketers, and it was like, I want to influence what's in all of these different places. And I'm going to write this LLMs.txt that says like, here's the information on my site. And a couple reasons why I don't think it's important. It's not harmful. It doesn't hurt anything.
Okay, so there's
And
no
I think
downside, is what you're saying.
there's not really if there's a downside, it's only in opportunity cost. There's a lot of other things to do.
Okay, gotcha.
So uh, the tools for taking HTML, like just a web page, and turning it into text are incredibly mature. And that's what all these services have been doing for a long, long time. And uh, the AI services that are building models off all the information they can scrape off the internet, they want as much information as possible. And I think in general, they are not interested in like a curated smaller portion of this.
Right.
And I don't think they can rely upon, people implementing LLMs.txt correctly. And so, if they're going to find your site crawl through it, pull the information down. They're going to do all that. Plus they would then do this LLMs.txt. That's not great either. So, not real keen on it. And I guess just throwing this out there, and this things change hourly. As of right now, I'm not aware of any AI service that's like, yep, we look at LLMs.txt.
Right.
And that feels like an easy press release if they wanted to make one. So
Yeah, or I guess they're not like Google, where Google wants to hide all the things, their 200 factors and the patent that they have and all that, right? Like,
yeah, if anything, it's the opposite, that we're seeing the AI services being incredibly aggressive and trying to, go through and pull information from sites, even in times when some of the publishers don't want that to happen. Right now, there's a big thing with Perplexity and Cloudflare, where Cloudflare is basically blocking Perplexity bots wherever it can, because they don't respect robots.txt, and they've had like stealth crawlers and things. And it's all very fraught. And I think a lot of people don't sort of think through the implications for things, even the language of this stuff. Like, we're talking about scraping. We're saying like, oh, these AI services are scraping your site, but we say like, oh, Google indexes your site,
right.
and that's just like a very basic language. It's the exact same technical mechanism. It's, using a computer program to read the HTML off the site, do some calculations on it, and then show it in a different context, whether that's, search results, and whether that's, an AI search model. It's something else, and I try, when I talk to people, to really think about intents. Like, what is it you're trying to do? Like, and so often, people doing B2B sales, B2C sales, things like that, you just want people to know about you. And so,
Right.
Great. Perplexity reads all my site. It reads all my blog posts. Yes, I spend a tremendous amount of time on that, but I want more people to see them. And I want to influence the LLMs to think positively about me and my company. So it's good that it's doing that. If I'm a publisher, if I'm, relying upon, eyeballs, and relying upon, eyeballs to get advertising revenue, that's a very different scenario. But there's very few publishers in the world compared to the number of companies trying to do, sales and marketing and everything else. And just try to be intentional, not confuse, who you are. So
I got you. Well, so if the LLM.txt is not a good way to necessarily spend our time, what do you think we should be as marketers focused on in this period of time?
So I think, I have this Biscuit framework that's on our site that's like agnostic. It's the most popular thing on our site. People read it all the time. That goes through a whole bunch of different steps, but it really boils down to two things. With respect to content marketing, you want to write content that's for lower in the funnel than maybe you did in the past. And two, you want to really work on distributing that as much as possible in as whole document as possible. So what I mean by that is that, used to be in cybersecurity, did a lot of work with web application firewalls. By far the biggest question is like, do I need a web application firewall? What is a web application firewall? What's different between a web application firewall and a proxy server? These
Right.
very high level questions that aren't really about my service. They were about, the underlying technology or learning about things. And all of those are much better served being directly answered by an LLM. ChatGPT will give you an incredible answer to that, much more nuanced, work with you on what you know and don't know. And it is not smart of me to try to compete with that. Where I need to compete is now,
Right.
you're not going to win that fight.
Right.
So where you need to compete is lower in this, which is like, well, what is more important, to have endpoint protection or web application firewall? Like, that starts to be something I can really write on and influence. And even further down, like, hey, this particular web application firewall, is that better than this other one? That's something I absolutely need to win. So more of that content that's further down the funnel, and then distribute that out, put the whole article on LinkedIn, make the whole article a YouTube video and put it on YouTube. And that's not something that we used to do as content marketers, as demand gen marketers, where we would think of that as, oh, there's duplicate content, as, oh, we're diluting our brand because people aren't going to come to our site. And
Or you might put that behind some kind of a transactional wall also, right? In order
yeah,
to gain access that way.
yeah. And it's not, you know, it's not that you need to put everything out there, but you need to be real deliberate about what you're doing and think about the goals. So
Yeah, I like that. I guess you're so number one. The beauty is you can ask each of the LLMs where you are right now and what you should do to update and
yeah,
help you to be found. So then where does NOATOA and your tool come in terms of helping
sure.
you?
So we help with some of the technical pieces of like tracking, like, hey, did you accidentally block Perplexity, which sends a lot of traffic, which people use to make a lot of decisions.
Right.
Did you accidentally block that kind of stuff? So it's just very helpful. And then the other piece of this is we really do track, you know, further down through all of this to help you figure out like what you should be searching for, and then you know, where do you stand against other competitors. So like we mentioned, like top, bottom, middle of the funnel type of questions. You can go to NOATOA, put your website in. We will actually take all of your existing traditional search keywords for you, do this big analysis of them, and show them to you in our research module of, hey, here are all the bottom of the funnel questions. Would you like to track these? And you just click, 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 add them to the tracking, and then they're tracked across, you know, Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all the different services all in one shot. And if there's a theme or like the way to think about search in the future is that it's fracturing, that it used to be just Google.
Right.
And now even within just Google, it's, you know, AI overviews and AI mode and everything else, you know.
And you still have Google Maps, and you still have traditional search, and you still have
Yeah.
voice search.
So, but, you know, you need tools to sort of scale out what you're doing, you know, to be able to think about these other services as well, where, you know, something people say to me a lot is like, I keep seeing these stats that like Google is still like 99% of the market of all the search queries. Well, when you actually break down, like, is it search people are doing where they're trying to like find information and make a decision? And the answer is most of the time, no. You know, like half of all of Google searches are really navigational. Like the number one thing people search for on Google is YouTube. Literally just type in YouTube. And that's not like, what's an alternative to YouTube? What is a better video site for me to look at? They're like, no, I'm trying to look at Mark
Right,
Rober or something,
yeah.
you know? So there's a lot happening in there that is not, you know, really decision making, but where those choices are when people are trying to figure out like, hey, I'm going camping, which tent should I buy? I'm doing, you know, making monetary decisions about things to do and to try to get things done. They're turning to AI services in huge amounts. So
Yeah, this idea that they're shopping engines, right? That's where Perplexity's trying to reframe themselves. So, which is
yeah,
nice.
but even more, you know, we talk a lot about search intents. I think with AI, we're also seeing more in terms of like task intents and what people are doing. And again, I think marketers, content marketers in particular, need to just be very particular about where you land in all of this, because so many pieces of this are being pulled away from you. Where, you know, there's certainly fractioning happening. There's in search. I think the other is that we're seeing more and more agent type search, even if you don't really think about it that way,
Right.
where Google's AI mode is really that, which is that there is, you know, in the past, it was like, hey, here's 100 links that are going to be the answer to whatever you type in. And you would look at those and you'd do this math in your head and look at a couple. And now we're seeing AI agents being inserted between there, each of
Right.
those. And that's sort of like a personalized, like, well, I know Mike likes this. I know Mike likes this other thing. And it will look at those 100 things and then return like, well, here's the 3 I think you'll be interested in. Here's why.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting. Yeah.
that's a real different thing now you have to write for, you know, for your site, for your thinking.
Yeah, I love it. That's a cool rabbit hole. I'm gonna spend some time on that myself. I like that. The agent writing.
Well, and I think I get frustrated with this too. Like, obviously, I'm all in on this AI stuff. And I think there's a lot of people that are legitimately skeptical especially of all the hype, but there is tremendous amounts of actual usefulness and value that's coming out of these things. And we're seeing more and more of that just sort of get like suffused into all of our stuff.
Yep.
So OpenAI just released their new open models. And so an open model is that instead of going to like ChatGPT and you run it on their services, it's a model you can run locally. And so OpenAI released a model that you can use locally that's almost as good as the newest models. And it runs on like your MacBook. Like I can run on my MacBook Air like fairly reasonably.
Right.
And that's kind of amazing. And I have a background in, business and economics. And it's one of those things like as stuff gets cheaper, you use it more and more. And so as the cost of this is nothing, of the electricity that's running my MacBook anyway, people are just going to use this for everything. So,
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting conversation about security and how much we trust all these guys and all that stuff too. But that's a different episode. So,
well, I'm not sure it is because, again, part of the issue is, you have this local model, like it's not calling out to the cloud. It's not leaving your house, it's not leaving your device you're running this stuff on. You
right.
feel a lot more secure about that than you would otherwise.
Yeah, for certain. I agree. Well, what's next on the 3-month roadmap for NOATOA?
I think we are trying to be more and more prescriptive in what we're saying. Like the feedback we hear from users is, this is a lot of good information. This makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure what my next step should be.
Right.
And so I think we're really working on trying to build in some more tools that say like, hey, here's what we see. Here's what you should go do. Here's some better feedback mechanisms on like incorporating that to see if it worked.
Yeah.
And really hoping that helps people connect the dots for this and feel more secure. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are still really worried about the changes happening in search. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're still maybe just a single digit real application of this technology, right? So market penetration is very, very small, and people are looking for leadership, especially on as in a topic like this that's super dynamic and nobody knows what's going on because we're kind of making it up as we go.
well, and it does change all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you keep up on the developer side, but just like there's just massive changes happening all the time on the
Yeah.
developer side with like how easy it is to use the tools and the different models and
Yeah,
does this
and
have a
literally
secret sauce kind of stuff. So
in the length of this interview, there have been major innovations that have happened in
it's
voice
like,
and in compression of files. I mean, it's a constant churn, and the humans are working on the flat Earth, and the machines are working all the time, also. So it really is about how we can pick useful use cases and integrate them into our organizations as quickly as the humans can adapt and adopt to use them.
well, I'm curious, I'm very focused on search and marketing applications of AI. Like, what do you see, Emmanuel? Like beyond that, like where,
Well, voice is the biggest thing, and then in the next 12 months, keyboards will be gone. We'll be able to interact with everything by voice. So that's the biggest thing is the connections that are happening that way, and really into that spot where like Star Trekky and reality of just commanding.
yeah, I mean, well, and this ties back to kind of what I was saying, like, with the developer tools, like I have a number of friends that really heavily, they aren't vibe coders. Like I think of vibe
Right,
coders as like 6 months ago, they never did any coding and now
right.
they're churning out applications. These are like very serious people that have been developing for a long time and they have picked up these tools and use them to just orchestrate, what they're doing.
Well, that
And
MCP server, with N8N or any of those other tools, it's magic.
yeah, this isn't, I mean, again, this isn't even like that. This is like old school, like, traditional web development,
Oh,
government contract stuff where they use, agent-based coding tools, but they do a lot of, like I'm going to write this thing. So I just speak into the microphone for a minute and put out like, here's this paragraph of text that's really then just used as context. And I see the same thing in search, that like, I got to do this big research report. Well, let me just do a brain dump. Let me just speak out loud for a minute of like, here's all the stuff I want it to find, all the stuff I want it to do. And then like, go do that and come back to me in 10 minutes. So.
And if you have the slightest structure of custom GPTs that you can call on, right? I mean, 2 or 3 fundamental customs that you can reference, then 90% of your output is complete. That's really the secret of all of this right now. Is building a soul, building reference materials, building somebody that's going to challenge your ideas, and having those as custom GPTs that all this content's reflected against. It is a very high level output.
Cool.
Well, Michael, I love it. I really love the work that you're doing, and I appreciate you again taking time to have a conversation with me. We'll have NOATOA in the show notes, and encourage people to get in there and get the review done at the very least, and then get a little prescription to get some experience with what you're doing. Yeah.
Happy to talk to anyone. They can even just email me, mike@noatoa.com. So.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you, and I look forward to catching up with you again in a few months and seeing what's changed for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Michael. You bet. Good to see you. Bye. Well, it's good stuff. We can stay focused on some fundamental SEO concepts, and then look at how we can develop content a little further down in the funnel to help answer questions that our prospects might have in our sales process. And then stay in touch with NOATOA and get your site or sites reviewed, and understand more about the content that you need to develop to support your marketing campaigns. I hope that you found value today in this episode. I also hope that you take the time to test out some AI tools and get some automation built into your processes, and get back 5 to 10 hours a week, which some people are finding it's very, very possible. And that with that time, you continue to upskill, you spend that time with your friends and your family, and that you get outside in nature, away from the screens. This is Emanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.